Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. I really, really appreciate it. If you could share this out to as many people as you can to bring more views on this very, very important and difficult topic. We are here to talk about fentanyl. It is running rampant. I think it is more like my goodness, it's like a pandemic. It is just all over the place. It's accessible everywhere. And as a parent who has lost a child, not to fentanyl, but who has lost a child, parents need to be aware of mental health, mental awareness, meaning checking in with your children, even though they think that or that you think that they are okay. Check in with them, making sure that you're having discussions and bringing awareness to them about the dangers of fentanyl as well as drug and alcohol abuse. I thank you guys for coming in. I'm going to bring Karla in, and she is going to be sharing her story, the journey that she is on currently. Thank you guys for coming in. Hello, Troy Sutton. Hello, Pooch. Hello, Mr. Howdy Doody. How are you? If you guys could all please share. I really would appreciate it. All right, I'm going to bring Karla in. All right, there she is. Hello, Karla. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Gosh, Rain, your daughter Rain, her story is one of probably every parent's worst nightmares. But at the same time, Rain was a beautiful, beautiful human being, a very happy, loving child, as I have seen through other videos that you have done or interviews that you have done, as well as just reading about her. So thank you for sharing her with us. Hi, Virginia Alexander. So I want to start in the beginning. Karla, again, thank you for your bravery. It's so hard to speak on things like this for many reasons. I think one is the emotional aspect of it. It's very difficult. It can be difficult at times. And the other is, I'll speak for myself, but when we shared about the passing of our son and the route that I chose to deal, there's judgment. But I think that this serves a bigger purpose. It serves a bigger purpose, which I think X's out or cancels out all the judgment, right? I think parents need to be aware. Children need to be aware. And who, I hate to say better to share the story, but someone who has experienced it. And I, again, it's just an honor to have you here. And I thank you for your yes. So tell us a little bit about Rain. What kind of baby was she? What kind of toddler, child, elementary, middle school, high school child? What kind of child was Rain?
Rain was probably the most beautiful person inside and out you'd ever meet. I had her at a young age. Like, we kind of grew up together. But Rain, she was smart, funny, creative, kind. She loved animals. She brought home so many different animals all the time. Her teachers always just raved about how kind she was to new students or her artwork. And she was really good at writing, like just really creative, just such an amazing, kind person. And I know everybody says that about their kids, but she really was extremely special.
And so as she was going to school as a middle schooler or a high schooler, had she suffered with mental health or anxiety, depression, anything like that?
Yeah. So we were a military family. We moved every couple of years. And, at first it seemed like it was something kind of fun. They enjoyed seeing new places. But the older she got, the more difficult it got for her to adjust. And so kind of like, middle school, high school years, it was getting more difficult, but she always adjusted well. But we did start counseling because she started suffering with anxiety and depression. And so throughout high school, she was doing counseling and was on medication for anxiety, but she was still involved in sports, still trying, like still a good friend to others, still doing art, writing, but she was struggling with her mental
Mm.
health.
One sec. Good evening, everyone. Karla is my daughter. There's Brad Bianchi. He is here. Did I say his name right?
Bianchi, but you can pronounce it
Bianchi.
either way, yeah.
Gotcha, Bianchi. He is here. Good evening, sir. Thank you for being here. I'm so grateful for your daughter to come on and join me in sharing, and I'm so sorry for your family's loss. And so, was Rain a child that expressed herself to you, like when she was feeling depressed or anxious, or could you just tell? And the reason I ask that is because there are a lot of kiddos, especially middle school. I just spoke to a middle schooler today who has graduated since, but in her middle school days, she said it was the worst time of her life. And she had a friend, it was actually her cousin, who tried to take her own life in middle school because it was the darkest part of their lives growing up. And as parents, we know as parents that it's easier said than done to say, this is going to pass. This will
Right.
pass. Just keep going to school. It'll pass. And so did Rain express to you when she was feeling anxious, or could you tell? Or
I could definitely tell. She often wrote in a journal, and I know I shouldn't read it, but there was times like when I was kind of concerned, I could just tell there was a difference. And in her journal, I could see what was going on, and so we had a talk, and so I did, and her and I both talked, and she ended up going to a treatment facility for depression.
Mm.
It was just, it was inpatient, but it was just maybe for a few days, and she got out, and we talked. Like I said, she continued counseling. We were very close. Like Rain and I feel like she was my heart outside of my body. We were just very similar. Like, so I
Mm.
knew when she was going through things, or she knew when I was going through things. Like we were just, I don't know, there was just a very special connection. And I know like you love all your kids, but she's my oldest kid. And so we just, I don't know, that we had a special bond. And I knew when she was going through things. Especially middle school, they probably don't speak about it as much, but you see a difference. They act out in different ways. But in high school, she spoke to me about it, and I did what I could to try to get her help. Like I said, and she tried. And then, like I said, she ended up going to college, and she was a freshman when she passed away. So she was trying.
And what was she interested in? What was she majoring in?
She was majoring in early childhood education.
Mm.
She wanted
She
to be a
loved
teacher.
children. Gotcha.
She loved kids. She was the best big sister.
Speaking of that, how are her siblings doing?
It's hard because my 7-year-old, her youngest sibling, she always says, when is she going to come home? Why did she have to leave? Like, why'd she have to die? And she always like will write notes and ask me to put it on Rain's grave. And she just doesn't understand. And then my oldest daughter, she's 17 now. And she's like, not only did I lose my sister, but I lost my mom. But she always says, I'd rather have the broken version of you than not have you at all. But like now, like lately, she's been sending me TikToks late at night and like about how a big sister is important and how she's missing her and just different things. So I know like the older she gets, it's affecting her because she's missing out. She feels like her sister is not there for her on the big things. And and then my son, he's 13, and he just worries about me all the time because like I try not to let the kids see me upset, but they can tell like I'm not the same, but they're doing their best, and I'm so proud of them. But it's just hard.
It is. And, I have to sort of echo a little bit in terms of when you say that your daughter said that not only did she lose her sister, but she lost her mom. Well, I have shared, my husband and I have shared this even together as a married couple, how it affected our marriage. And our son was my husband's biological son. He was my bonus child, but I loved him like my own. And um, but I remember through the grieving process that I noticed that my husband was very different. And I know that I even had to share with my husband. I said, "Gosh, I'm so sad too." So I know how your child feels. Goodness, you lose, and but I know that my husband can't help it, and neither can you. You know, it changes who you are. It changes who you are. It changed my husband. He's not the same man that I married. He's still an amazing man, and you're still an amazing woman, Karla. But yes, it does change who you are. And so do your children, do they I guess do they go to counseling as well to sort of work out their the unknown feelings? They're so little. I mean, you know, they're so young, and sometimes you just don't know what to do with those big feelings.
So like at first they did go to counseling and then so the older two, my 13-year-old and 17-year-old, they're not going anymore, but my 7-year-old is still going. She's kind of more doing like art and different things like that because she's still kind of trying to navigate her feelings. But you know, we tried and if they're ready to go again, but sometimes they just don't want to talk to people they don't know. So my oldest goes to church and I think that helps her. And my son, you know, he just kind of, I feel like he puts everything into sports, you know, just so that's kind of like what they're doing. But my 7-year-old is in counseling.
Your dad said that he lost his daughter, and I understand, Mr. Bianchi. I do understand. And my condolences to you guys. But on the flip side of it, I know that, and I know that you know too, sir, that your daughter is doing the best she can, and I know my husband's doing the best that he can. And I thank God that both of you guys are still here. We had a podcast on the air where my husband had shared that I was the only reason he was still alive, and that broke me. It broke me because you know, I can't imagine
That's
feeling
kind of
like
how
that.
I feel about my
And
kids.
but oh, lost Karla. Let me see if I can get her back in. There she is. So Karla, if you don't mind sharing about the day that Rain passed, what was going on beforehand and how she passed.
So it was a Friday night and she called me and said, "Mom, I'm not doing very good. I really want to get back into counseling and get back on medication." And I said, "Okay, I'll call on Monday." And she said, "Okay." And she's like, "I love you. And I have an assignment due by midnight, but I'll call you tomorrow." And I said, "Okay." And I just said, "Rain, I just want you to know that God loves you and has big plans for your life.
Mm.
And I promise you're going to be an amazing teacher one day." And then the next day, I got a call that they found her dead in bed with her schoolwork still open on her computer and her dog beside her in bed. And I'm like, "What happened? Did she have a heart issue? Like, what is going on?" And so we get the medical examiner's report back about 6 weeks later, and it said she passed away from a Xanax laced with fentanyl. And then so I start going through her stuff. And that night she Googled, "What does a generic Xanax look like?" And so I felt like I lied to my daughter because she wasn't ever going to be a teacher. And if God had big plans for her life, why did she die? And so I was so mad at myself. Like I still hate myself. And I was mad at God. And I'm like, why her? She's like the kindest person.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's what happened because she was trying, you know, and she was trying to be saved by Googling about what does a generic Xanax look like. And she wanted help, you know, and so, but that one decision to take something cost her her life.
I'm sorry. I, you know, there are so many kids that, especially when they're hurting, and you know, and it sounded like she was doing her best to try and wait until you guys went to the counselor and whatnot. But it did sound, like you said, like she was hurting. And but the fact that she, Googled to see what a generic one looked like, and um, feeling safe enough to take it. And did they find out, Karla, how much fentanyl, I guess for lack of a better word, was laced with, the amount? Is it a certain amount
Well
that it takes? Is it a little amount?
well, it's very small amount, and, but for Rain, it had 2.5 times the minimum lethal dose in that one pill.
Oh my gosh. And then after you learned of your daughter's passing, of course, you go through, and we continue to go through the grieving process. We miss our children every single day. It's probably the first thing that we think about when we open our eyes, think about
Mhm.
them throughout the day, and then the last thing before we close our eyes. I know that it's for me.
Mhm.
But you are continuing to share Rain's story to bring awareness to others, and so that parents themselves, other parents, will be aware and won't have to go through what you are going through. I watched an interview with you, and you had mentioned something about Rain's Law. Tell us a little bit about what that is, and if it's passed or not.
And so it is a bill that would require fentanyl education in grades 6 through 12, and it
Mm.
would kind of also talk about mental health and, 'cause those 2 kinda go hand in hand. But, right now, currently in Oklahoma, there's no education about the drug fentanyl or really anything else in the schools. So when they have Red Ribbon Week, they're talking about, like, crazy socks or making healthy choices or just different dress up days. They're not talking about the dangers of fentanyl, and so kids really need to know, because if it can happen to my family, it can happen to anyone's. And I've met so many moms that were in my shoes that have lost a child or went to wake them up and never woke up for school, or just different things, so young. And I want the kids to realize, like, because education is so important. If no one talks to them about it, they're not going to know. And so I met some other parents that have gone through this, and they've been working with legislation in Oklahoma. So we went and met with the senator and the the House rep, and we talked to them about the bill and what we wanted to do. And so they brought up Rain's Law, and they're like, "We can call it Rain's Law." And I said, "Oh wow, that's great," because I thought, well, she always wanted to be a teacher, so this bill would help her be a teacher in a way,
Mm.
not the way I wanted her to teach, but, she would be helping save kids' lives. And, kind of at first, I didn't really even wanna share her story because I didn't want people to judge her, because so many people, like, online, you'll see them say, "Oh, they just shouldn't be doing drugs," or, whatever. But kids don't well, kids, they're gonna sometimes they experiment, and back a long time ago, they would learn to live from their mistakes. And now kids, a lot of times, they think a pill is not a drug, or they don't realize it's something that could harm them. And if they don't have the education piece, they're not going to know. And so, I think if kids are taught that one pill, or, even marijuana, it's been laced with fentanyl now. And so one mistake or one try could cost you your life. And I think if this bill passes, it could help save kids. And so I'm kind of like trying to ignore what people would say, because I know my
Yeah,
daughter would want me, even if if it just saved one person's life, it would be worth it to her. Because
absolutely.
so I'm just like, okay, so yeah, right now it's passed in the Senate Ed Committee, and it passed in the House, and it's just waiting to be heard on the Senate floor. The session starts again in February, and I'm just hoping and praying that they hear it. And I do believe that it would pass once they hear it, because it's just so important. Just even like I said, even if it just saves one kid's life, that's all that matters. I just never want a mom to be in this position.
I know. I'm praying for it to pass. And how beautiful is it of you to continue to carry on and share her legacy, where she will be a teacher. She is a teacher now. Through you and you doing these interviews, Karla, she is teaching. I'm learning. Um, you know, you are carrying that on for her. She has passed the torch to you so that you will continue to fulfill her dream to be a teacher. And I've seen the interviews that you have so courageously given, and you hear rain. You can hear rain through everything that you are saying. And in terms of your grief, um, how have you tried to, I guess, take care of yourself?
I don't think I have. I mean, I exist for my kids because I don't ever want them to hurt any more than they already do. And as a mom, it's like when you lose a child, you're grieving, but you're still forced to be you're still a mom and they still need you. So, I did try counseling and I felt like it really wasn't for me. I mean, I know some people really benefit from it, but and maybe I should, try a different one, but unless someone's been in my shoes,
Mm,
then I feel like it's almost kinda difficult for me to listen to them because I'm like, "You don't know how I feel. You haven't lost a child." So, to find a grief counselor that's maybe lost a child or someone close, it might be better, but, I think what's helped me the most is talking to other families that have lost a child and honestly, the thing that's helped me the most is talking at schools and knowing that I'm telling another child Rain's story, and when they come up to me and say, "You know what? I'll never forget Rain, and I will never take something that's not for me." So, I think that helps more than anything, but, like you said, when we talked earlier before we went live, it's like, sometimes you reach out to the wrong things too, and, at the beginning, it's like you'll do anything for relief. You might try to self-medicate. And so before I lost Rain, I hardly ever used to drink, but like I noticed I started drinking more just to go to sleep, just to have
mhm,
some kind of relief
mhm.
from this constant pain in my heart. And it doesn't fill that void. Nothing does. And I think it's a hole in your heart that's there forever. And like I said, the only thing that's helped me is helping others. And then
Well,
my kids
yes. Go ahead.
my kids help me, like, they help my heart too. Mhm.
Gosh, you have beautiful children. You do. Your children are beautiful. I social media kind of stalked your pages, and I mean, you're a beautiful woman, Karla, and I can say that um, even from my own experience, losing when my husband and I lost our son Ben, he was 25, and my dad being a raging alcoholic when we were growing up, and me sort of learning from watching, right? And whenever the pain just got to be too much, boy, I couldn't wait till the weekends. I was like, I do not want to feel this pain. I don't want to feel this pain. But then it started becoming an every weekend thing. And my husband said that our son Ben came to him in a dream and told him to tell me to stop. And so as soon as he told me that, I stopped. But then you face the reality, and it is a harsh, indescribable reality that your child is not coming home, and
Mhm.
to have to deal with that on the daily, every minute of every day is extremely difficult. And but you sharing Rain's story, and you and Rain together saving a child's life already, a child saying, I'm never going to take anything. That's so beautiful. That is so huge, and such a tribute to you as a mother, and to Rain as a daughter, and the teacher that she aspired to be and that she is being. I can only imagine the class that she has in heaven, and that she's sharing and that she's teaching there. Um, I I wonder, let's see, your dad says, how does a father try to find some type of happiness in her daughter? I know her other kids see her depression every day. I know it's just, it is a daily choice. It's a daily choice that you wake up and you get going. And that, I think for me, I remember that the Lord has a greater purpose for me. And I don't know what he has told you, Karla, but I can see the greater purpose. I see it. And it is you carrying on Rain's legacy, and for you going out and teaching. How proud she is of you, I'm sure. Your dad had mentioned to tell us a little bit about Jelly Roll. What's I saw a picture of Jelly Roll holding Rain's picture. What was that about?
Well, so it was weird. So I guess he came to Oklahoma City and he was doing a concert, and I was like, okay, well, I decided last minute to go, and it was a sold out show. And so when you buy the tickets last minute, you can get kind of closer up because some people decided they can't go and they were selling tickets. So I got a ticket and it was on the floor, but it was kind of in the back on the floor. But I'm there and I brought Rain's photo and I'm holding it, and the guy behind me is like, I'm so sorry for the loss of your daughter. And I said, oh, thank you. And I just said, I talked to him a little bit about Rain. And then he said, I want Jelly Roll to see her picture. So he and I walked towards the stage, and then security tells us to go sit back down. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, we're not sitting back down. Let's go over on the other side. And I said, no, I'm not going to go back up there. But and so he said, okay. And he took the picture. And he goes up to the stage, but he comes back without the picture. And I'm like, he's like, well, my buddy's in the front row. He's going to show Jelly Roll the photo. And I said, okay. And then a few minutes later, Jelly Roll's singing that song, She, and he has her photo on stage. And then he's like, I don't know whose beautiful daughter this is, but I want to meet you after the show. So I got to meet him and tell him about Rain. And yeah, we just talked for a little while, and I got to take a picture with him and told him all about her.
Wow, how beautiful. My goodness. Oh my gosh, Karla. My husband had also put a little comment here. He says that he lost his first wife, the mother of Ben, to suicide. And he has also asked God many times, what have I done to deserve this? Do you ask yourself that question?
Probably almost every day. I'm like, God, why? Like, why me? I lost my mom when she was 47, and it's like, I feel like I've lost so many people, and I don't understand because there's so many evil people in this world that I feel like are going through this life problem free. And then I lost my daughter, and literally, like, Rain was probably one of the kindest, most beautiful souls you'd ever know. And it's like, why did I lose her? Like, why not this terrible person? And why do all these things keep happening to me? I know I'm not perfect, but I know that I don't deserve this. And it's like, okay, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. And maybe it never will on this side of heaven. I just feel like, and then other moms that I've met that have lost their kids kind of describe such another child, like a beautiful soul, someone that's kind. And it's like, I feel like the people that show the most love probably feel like go through the most attacks. And I don't know why. It just doesn't make sense, but I don't know.
Yeah, I know. And I think as I was going through some of my, I'm going to still go through daily. We have a memorial garden here on our property. It has Benjamin is our son, and it has his, it's a little garden. There's a memorial, like a rock, and it's engraved, and we planted a tree there for him, and we decorate for Christmas. We put a little Christmas tree there. But there are times when I pass by there and it's the hardest thing to look at. And then there are times that I pass by there and it's the best thing that I could ever see. And it's just I think it's just the waves of emotion that go up and down. But if I think about myself and my pain, that's when it gets dark and hard to climb out of that hole. So I have to sometimes make the choice, and I focus on Ben and where he is now, and that his purpose here was served, and that, like Rain, he wants us to continue, and he wants us to continue to share and talk about him. And so to serve a greater purpose such as that, I knew that I was never going to get the answers to my questions as to why. And I'm not afraid to ask God why, because, you know, when you have relationships, you can ask questions to others. And I know that we won't get those answers this side of heaven, but I do know that by you continuing on, by my husband continuing on, by my stopping drinking and sharing our stories of our son, Ben, and the beautiful soul that he was and is now, it gives me peace knowing that I'm not alone, that there are others that, unfortunately, it helps me. I don't want to say peace, but it helps me to, like you said, it helps to talk to other people that have been through this. They understand you, they see you, they hear you, and they know that, gosh, there aren't any words that can ever take away or remove that pain. But boy, we're not in this by ourselves. There are other people that have gone through this with us. And the fact that you continue to carry on for your beautiful children. Your children are so beautiful. And you yourself, Karla, are such a beautiful woman. And there was something that I meant to ask you about it before we went live, but there was a poem that you wrote. It was a Christmas poem. And so beautiful. And I can see now, when you said that Rain is creative, now I see where she gets her creativity from you. I mean, I don't know her dad, but it sounds like she gets a lot of her creativity from you. And for those of you that have social media, if you go and search for Karla, she has, you read it yourself, and so amazing. And I thank you so much for sharing yourself and your family with us, to bring awareness, to help other families know that they're not alone, and to help us as parents, as teachers, as schools that need to bring this awareness into education, because it doesn't seem like it's going away. It seems like it's getting worse.
Right. Thank you.
I'm going to continue. Go ahead, Karla.
No, I just said thank you. You know, I feel like I always loved to write, but whenever I had Rain, she was even just she was so much better than I am. And shortly before she passed away, I was talking to her because my mom, before she passed away, always said, I think you need to write an illustrated children's book. And I said, okay, Mom, maybe one day. But she always felt like that I needed to. And so I was telling Rain that I wanted to do that. And I said, I'm going to write a children's book and I want you to illustrate it. And she's like, Mom, I would love to help you do that. And so we never got to do that together. So I've kind of been like feeling like I might start that, a book, and dedicate it to Rain. I don't know. But so I've noticed that writing does help some. So I've wrote a few poems. I've shared a few of them on Facebook, but just kind of like a way to express my heart and my feelings.
Oh my goodness. Karla, that would be so amazing if you did write a book. And, you know, really, Rain, I'm sure, I know, that is helping you to write that book. There was a young man who wrote a book about one of his experiences. He was a guest at, he had cancer, and he had his leg amputated at a very young age. And as the years passed and he experienced what it was like to live with his prosthetic leg, and started continuing to play basketball. And to this day, he still plays basketball with his prosthetic leg and his Nike shoe. And he shared and wrote a children's book about it. And I think there are a lot of children, I don't know what your book may be, you may be thinking about writing about, but I think there are a lot of children that need to understand the feelings and the loss of a sibling, and that those feelings are natural, normal to feel.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, I say this that with a little bit of guilt, with guilt, that it wasn't till recently that I asked my adult children, how did you feel about all of this when this happened? Because I was in a cloud, a fog, and it wasn't that I wasn't trying to think about anybody else but myself. That wasn't it at all. I couldn't get out of it. And so I neglected to ask his brother and sister, like at that time, at that very specific time that we found out that Ben had passed, I held them while they cried, but I didn't, ask, how are you feeling? Or even the next day, how are you feeling today? Like I was just so in this funk. And
Mhm.
but I do know that, one of our other son, he had to drop out of school because he was failing. And I didn't know that he was failing until he said, "Hey, I'm going to have to drop out of school." And I think a book on expressing those feelings and that they're natural and normal. What a beautiful tribute. But again, I don't know what your book might be about, but I do know that kiddos need to know that it's okay to feel, and that parents need to know that you're not going to be on top of your A game when something like that happens, but that to remind us to check in with our children because they're suffering, struggling as well.
Right, and sometimes I think they're afraid to tell their family because they already see that we're like, "Oh, my mom's already upset. I can't upset her more."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
That's the perfect way to explain it for sure. Let's see here. Yes. Pooch says, man, it truly affected our kids emotionally. It did. Hi, Daniel. Daniel is here and he says, I try not to think about it, but with my depression pricked, if anything happened to my son, I don't know if I'd be able to continue on with his depression problems. He says he's all that he's got. Yes, and so that's why we do podcasts like this to bring awareness, to let other parents and families know this is how we got through it. This is how we're still getting through it, and that they're not alone. That unfortunately we never know. We never know when God's going to call us home. And a friend of mine also said, Karla, that so when my mom passed, my mom as well was just an angel on earth, just the to me, the most beautiful woman that put up with a lot from a raging alcoholic and just continued to give him grace on the daily and forgive him on the daily. And I just thought, gosh, she's an angel. And then she got lupus and she passed. And I thought, why? But a friend of mine said that, God needs his, and I know that it's cliche. And at the time I was just like, whatever. But then later I thought, well, maybe that's true. But, God needs his angels up there to help him do his work because the world is getting so terrible that he needs them up there to help him. And I thought, well, then he got a good one because mom is a very hard worker and very loving and non-judgmental person. And I feel like
Mhm.
Rain, with all the love that she has to share, is probably up there helping so many of us down here, and we don't even know it. But
Right.
I want to ask you a question before we go, and it's one that I ask all of my guests before we go, and that is, after everything that you have been through, Karla, everything from birthing Rain, for raising her and her siblings, your other children, for giving birth to them, the loss of your mom, the loss of Rain, going through the grief, sharing her story, thinking about writing a book. After everything that you've been through up until now, who would you say that Karla is? Who is Karla today? Who are you today, Karla?
I don't even feel like I don't like myself anymore. I feel like I'm so I'm so broken, and I know people always tell me I'm so strong, but I'm not. I feel so broken. It takes everything in me to get up out of bed and to do things. I don't feel like I'm the same person I used to be. I used to be outgoing and love talking to people, and now I don't want to talk to anybody. I try to avoid people. I try to avoid conversations because just even going to the store, someone will be like, "Oh, how many kids do you have?" or "How are you?" And it's just easier not to talk. So I feel like now I'm not the same person I used to be, and I'm so mad at myself for so many things because when you do lose a child, you think, "Man, I should have done this or that." And I know that one thing that I have changed is that life is so short, and the things that we think matter don't. And so now I just try to spend as much time as I can with my kids. I try to take as many pictures as I can and to enjoy every moment. But I just feel like like I said, I'm so broken. I feel like I have so much anxiety and grief, but I do feel like giving love is so important. So I try to do that. I don't know. It's almost like you don't know who you are anymore, but you also
Mm,
know what's important, and
mm,
giving love and focusing on what matters in life. So I don't know. It's kind of, I can't even really say that because I just don't know. I just know that I'm trying, and
yes.
I don't know if I'll ever be who I used to be, but and like I said, I don't know who I am right now. I just know that I feel like I'm just trying.
Mm. And I understand that, and I appreciate your candidness and transparency with that, because I'm sure there are a lot of other parents that think the same thing. Like, I'm just trying. I don't know who I am. We have a question in the comments. Daniel says there is no timeline for grief and pain, but may I ask how long ago this happened?
Rain passed away on May 27th of 2023, and I don't think time heals any wounds. I actually started writing a poem. I haven't finished it, but it's about how people will tell you, like, "Oh, it's going to get better with time." But with time, people stop checking on you and they expect you to be better, or they stop mentioning your child. And like you said, you think about them all the time. Like on holidays, like I said, I went to hang up stockings and I still hung up four, but it's like you see who's missing. And with time, other people are kind of going on with their life because life continues. But for you, you're still stuck on who you're never going to see grow up, who,
Mm,
um, and even if you're going to see them again in heaven, it's still so hard because on this side of earth, you're not going to see your child again. And it's so hard. And so one thing that goes through my head often is, when Rain was dying, was she thinking about me, or did she know, and was she scared? And all those thoughts go through my head. And sometimes you just have to try not to allow yourself to go there because it's just it can torment you. And it's just not, I don't know, it's just a really hard thing that I never want anyone to feel. And if they have been through this, I'm so proud of anybody that's still here and still trying, because it's probably the worst thing in the world.
mm. Most definitely. Um, Mike said, he said, like I said, I will carry this to my grave. Much love to you, Karla. I understand that for sure. Um, well, Karla, can I tell you what I see?
Hmm.
I see a beautiful woman, a woman who is trying, who is here for her children, who is here carrying on and carrying Rain's legacy on, and very beautifully, I might add, because everything that I see you when you speak about her or you write about her or there's an interview, it is like she's right there with you. It is beautiful. I see the light, and I know that she's extremely proud of you. As you are proud of other parents that are still surviving, I am proud of you for keeping going, for keeping trying, for getting up
Thank
in the
you.
morning, doing the best that you can, and that's all that we can do. That's all that we can do, is the best that we can. And the fact that you now know what a gift it is to, um, what a gift life is, and to not know when our children, or we could lose our children or another family member, how precious time is. And so I see a
Mm.
beautiful woman, and a woman who is Rain's mom, who is fighting to pass this bill, and we're gonna pray and fight that it passes as well so that she gets in those school and that she teaches like she wanted to. And I see a
Thank you.
woman who is, extremely brave and courageous, and one whom I am so honored that I got to finally meet you, even though it's via video, that I finally got to meet you, and to hear Rain's story and to get to know her a little bit better. And so I thank you for sharing her with us and with the world. And please, Karla, keep on keeping on, because Rain's legacy has to continue. And you are doing a great job carrying that torch that she passed on to you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
You're very welcome. And thank you so much, Karla, for joining us. And I hope that you and I can stay in touch and chat and cry with one another when we need to, and lift each other up when we need to, because I completely understand how you are feeling. So I hope that we will stay in touch. And I thank you again so much for coming on and sharing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. All right. We're going to let Karla go. Thank you for spending your night with us, Karla. And thank you all for being here with us this evening and sharing and supporting and asking questions. Thank you, Mr. Bianchi, for being here. I appreciate you as well and your input. And Daniel and just everybody that is here. Thank you so much. And again, I ask that you please share this out with others to bring awareness to other parents and other children, so that they will know the dangers of fentanyl, drug poisoning, alcohol, and also mental awareness, as well as the grief of a parent and carrying on. So thank you again so much for coming on. Until next time, I will see you. Have a good night.
This is your Prospera era, where dreams align with grace, abundance flows like rivers. You've stepped into your place. Rise, reign, and remember, you were born to shine. Welcome to your moment, Prospera, it's time.
We hope you enjoyed today's show on Prospera TV Network. Make it a point to visit us on YouTube and catch all your favorite shows anytime you want. Interested in hosting a show of your own? Or advertising your business on our network? Contact Elena Rodriguez.